How's it going, everybody? Jason here. Thanks for checking out the channel today. If you are new, I do bubble.io tutorials primarily. Eventually, I'm going to start looking at other no and low code tools. So if you're not familiar with Bubble, it is a visual development platform. They don't like to be lumped in with those no and low code tools because a lot of them say it's magic and it's really not. It's a pain in the ass if you're not technical. Anyway, I didn't really say that out loud, but Bubble gives you a lot more control when it's up, and it will also help you build stuff pretty darn quickly. So today I'm going to show you how to include schemas. So think of it this way: when Google indexes stuff, if you had a book that had no table of contents, it's got to sort through the glut of all of that stuff to index your site. And it probably says, that's too much work, I'll just rank it low because I don't care. Schemas allow you to essentially add a table of contents to your site, and there's a whole bunch of different types. I'm going to go through organization and a couple of the other ones, but you can add organization information, course and event information if that's what your site is doing, articles for blog posts, video, a whole bunch of different types of schemas. And that's going to help with your discovery through Google, and it's also going to help with AI tool discovery. So AI is not going to have to guess what your site is based on scraping your content. You're actually going to be putting in information where it can retrieve that in a structured way. So let's get into it. All right, so first let me do a quick overview of what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to adjust the bubble settings with the org schema information, and this means the org schema is going to show up on every single page on your site. And there's no limit to how many schemas you can have on each page, but that's what I'm going to do for this one. I've already set up a few of these, and now when I want to do this on a per page level, for example, I have a course details page, and I want to include the org schema, and I also want to include a course, and that's it for this one. And another way to do this per page is on my event page. So where my trainers will go and list their events, I'm going to show the org schema, and I'm going to show what they call the course instance schema, which contains the course schema. So don't worry if that's a little bit too confusing for right now. What I'm going to do first, because if you've ever tried to build stuff in Bubble, particularly if you're doing a long piece of text, so if I go into one of the pages that I've already updated on my production site here, you could see this here. When you're trying to replace variables here, it's basically just a giant pain to type in this. And if you type in the HTML editor, if you have dynamic variables here, it's going to either break them or just not change them. So that's pretty irritating. So to get around that, what I'm going to do is I am going to create, I don't like that color, let's try this one. I'm going to create a schema thing. And what I want to put in that schema is I want to have type. That's going to be org, course, or whatever the names of those official schemas are. I'm going to have the script text. And the way I'm going to do the script text is I'm going to use replacement variables. So for example, in the organizational element, there's an element called name. And I'm going to use these types of replacement variables. So now when I pull that thing onto the page, I can do a find and replace this with whatever values, and it's going to be a lot easier than trying to type that. Plus, the way you can do this is if you have pages that have multi-use. So for example, I have a downloads page where people can view a video, a link, an article, whatever it is. I want to use a dynamic schema, and I'll be able to do that with the type here. And I'm also going to add, this is specific to my site, I'm going to add a resource type parameter here as well. And that's going to be video, article, or whatever. That's so I can dynamically render whichever one based on the download details page. So let me just show you one that I already built here to get you right into it, because as long as you know this and if you're reasonably proficient in Bubble, you can just go away and probably go to do this, and you don't have to watch the rest of the video if you don't want to. So the best way to find these schemas is say, generate me, use whatever AI tool you want, generate me a schema for my website, use the organization schema, and put placeholder variables wrapped in so I can replace them. So this is going to generate just the org schema here because that's what I asked it to do. And here you go. So it has generated this for me automatically. And these are some of the variables that you can use. You certainly don't have to use all of these, so use whatever makes sense for your context. So the next thing is you might not even know what types of schemas are available to you. So you could just say, what are all of the available schemas I can use? And it's going to generate a full list. And the same thing, you can do the same thing with the list of all of these. You can say, generate me something or other. So this is going to help you optimize based on what your site is doing, what it's for, who you're trying to attract, your customers, if you sell products, whatever that is. So there's a ton here, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but those 2 prompts will essentially help you get started. And now it's just a matter of brute force updating these. So I'm going to copy the org schema here first, and I'm going to go into my data types, and I want to create a schema type. And what I want is Bubble to click on and actually use the schema instead of going to this activity feed one. So let's try this again, shall we? Let's select it from the list instead. Schema. And for some reason, it keeps loading activity fields. So let's just try to figure out. Let's try something else. Schema values. Let's create that type instead. And okay. Let's reload this and see what happens. Schema. There we go. So we had to reload the page. I left that in the video on purpose because Bubble's been down the last few days doing stupid shit like this, and it's really getting on my nerves. Anyway, let's get back to it. So I'm going to use schema, and I'm going to delete this schema values one, and I'm going to create a new field. Let's call this name or label, just so I know which one it is. And I'll give it a description, just in case. The script text. Now this one, I'm going to create the resource type, which is an option set that is in my app already. So this is so when I get to the download details page, I'll know if it's a video, if it's an image, or whatever it is. And the other thing I need to do is I need to create a schema type option set, which I'm probably not going to use in this video. I can say organization, I can say course, I can say video, I can say article, whatever it is. That's mostly going to be for my classification. So I'm going to add a new entry, and the first thing I need to do is go back and update that data type. So I want to have the schema type. App data, let's create a new entry. So this schema type is going to be organization. Script text is going to be what I copied from there. I'm going to call this org schema, and I'll say this describes my org. Okay, so that's how I would set this up, and then on the pages I want to use that, I'm going to retrieve the record, and I'm going to either retrieve it by name or by slug or by unique ID, or even schema type to make it easier. And then I'm going to do a find and replace on all of these different variables. So this is the format for the org schema. Now in Bubble, if you wanted this on every single page, I wouldn't actually be pulling it from the database. I would go into settings, and then I would go to the SEO and meta tags section, scripts, meta tags, and header, and literally just plunk it in here. So what's the name, the URL, all that kind of stuff, links to social media, founding information, whatever information you want to have in there. And then now that is going to show on every single page. And on some of the sub pages, if I go to the download details page. The way that I'm going to add the schema for the detail pages for all the resources is I'm going to use the page HTML header section here. So now again, if I wanted to just paste all this stuff in, I'd have to paste this in and then go here, get rid of that value, insert dynamic data, whatever that is. And then when you notice how the text is just going to keep jumping around, and this would be a list I would want to pull. So it's just a real pain to do this. So instead, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to generate the resources schema here. I'm going to say, can you generate me an article schema? So because I'm in context, it knows I want to use these variables here. I may or may not use all of these types of things. So let's just copy this, and I'm going to go back into my data set here. I'm going to create a new entry. I'm going to call this article schema. For articles, schema type will be article. Resource type will be blog article. Now this is obviously specific to my site because I post resources that are a whole bunch of different types of things, and I can use individual schemas to automatically render the right schema. So script text, I'm just going to paste this in. I'm probably not going to use all those things, but let's just create this just to show how this can be done on the downloads details page. So what I'm going to do here first, get rid of all this, and I'm going to do a do search. Do a search for schema where the resource type equals the current page, current page resources resource type. Now this is always going to be the first item. So now I want to render the script text. And let me just open up a resource on the test site so you can see it. Okay, so here's a page where it just has an AI summary of an article, and then it actually links to something that I wrote on LinkedIn. And let's go to view page source, and let's look for article. So there it is. So here's the script that's being pulled into the header. And you can see, obviously, it still has the replacement variables because I haven't done that yet. So like I said, I'm not going to go through all of these and use every single one of these replacements. So now that I have the script text here, I'm going to use the find and replace. So let me find and replace one of the variables here, which is, let's call it, let's do the headline. So let's replace the headline. So here's the replacement variable. Search for that text and replace that with current page resources title. And click on view page source. There it is. So the headline's been replaced. So I'm not going to go through every possible combination of those things. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is how you can validate this. So these links are in the description. You can go to validator.schema.org, and you can either just paste in your code snippet here and it will tell you if it's valid or not. And fetch URL, you can actually put the URL in there. I'm going to paste in a URL that I have previously already done. So it's going to run the test. This is an event details page for an AI course that I run, and it should come up with two. It should come up with the organization and the course instance schema sections. And there you go. So it's going to tell you if there's any warnings or if there's any errors. So the organization, here's the information that it's pulling, the logo, the description, all of the social URLs and all the info that I put in there. And then it is also showing the course instance. So it's showing my course name and title, where the location is, who the trainer is, And then also it's showing me information about the course. And it's important because some trainers will change the name and they'll change the description a little bit. So this is just the actual event, of which there will be multiple ones. And then this is the course that it's associated to. So that's all there is to it. Most of the work can be done with whatever your favorite AI tool is. Just ask it to generate the schemas, stuff that in a thing, and use find and replace for your variables. And then you can check that stuff through schema.org. You can also check it with Google's rich text URL checker, and I'll put that URL in the description as well, and it's going to show you the results. And then you can use Google Search Console to start monitoring your results over time. So if you like this video, remember to hit like and subscribe. Tutorials come out every week. See you next time.